3 main deck Spell Pierce from Max Shiffman. You figure they're going to be amazing in the matchup.
Right, this is the spot that Simic Nexus tries to avoid. So Nexus gets a ton of points against a lot of the mid-range decks by blanking some of the creature interaction or the fact that it kind of circumvents the traditional ideas of how card advantage works. Like Hybrid Krasis drawing cards doesn't matter, for example. But the mono blue deck is good at picking apart the payoff cards from the Simic Nexus deck. So if you just counter, say, a Wilderness Reclamation and are able to answer a Tamio, a couple Root Snares, and so on, Simic just won't actually do anything.
Search for Escanta. Turn 2 on the play from Sam. Bins a Tamio. Max has made Terramander to start. So when we look at the main deck counter spells from Max, it is 3 Spell Pierce, 1 Negate, and 1 Lookout's Dispersal, along with 4 Wizard's Retorts. So he has 9 counter spells.
That is a lot. Most control decks don't play that many in their 75.
Last one from Sam. Max actually not spending his mana at all on turn 2, and on turn 3 just making Merfolk Trickster. This is a bit underwhelming from what I see in mono blue.
So a lot of it is more just that this deck is very rarely out the gates aggressive. A lot of it is that it's disruptive. So unless Shiffman's flooded, there's even a point where this is kind of scary on Laurence's side of the battlefield, because you might just feel like if Shiffman kept a hand without a bunch of early creatures and without Curious Obsession, there's probably a wall of counter spells on the other side.
Yeah, I suppose 3 damage at a time. Sam Laurence goes to 12. That 4 more turns is all it takes.
Yeah, honestly, it's a co-op sport, right? Shiffman's going to let Laurence take a lot of turns.
Right.
Shiffman's going to deal 3 for all of them. Fair's fair.
On Sam's side, he's cast and jump-started a Chemister's Insight. Blast Zone has worked its way up to 1. He tries Wilderness Reclamation, and I like this. He waits until he has 6 mana to dodge a Spell Pierce. Now gets hit with Lookout's Dispersal, but what he's trying to do is blank a Spell Pierce, it feels like.
Right, and that's the downside to Shiffman not having a ton of pressure, is it does give Laurence more time to just make his land drops, because playing lands is a way to naturally counter Spell Pierce.
Shiffman down to 9. It was card 6 in the graveyard. Next turn, he'll be able to transform that Search for Escanta. You see Laurence's hand, a Nexus of Fate up in the front of it. And here is Nexus of Fate from Laurence. On the end step, he goes to 6. Shiffman, you know he has a counter spell, but which one is it going to be?
Right, and there's even a point that some players take where you just let the Nexus resolve and counter the other quote-unquote other important spells. But when the Search for Escanta is about to transform, that's not really something that you want to be doing.
And it will transform. Max ended up using his 1 main deck Negate to counter it. 2 cards left in Shiffman's hand. At this point, I think you have to just say he is flooded.
Yeah.
Now, he is representing lethal because of all these islands, right? The Terramander can just be cranked up the hard way, tap 7 islands.
So the other side of that is there's a Blast Zone, which kills Terramander.
And 2 Wilderness Reclamation from Sam Laurence resolves, another one does. Yeah, that is certainly a way to crank up a Blast Zone and make sure you can activate it. So, 1 untap from the Reclamation.
Looks to me like Laurence is a bit of the adventuring type, really just wants to find Escanta.
He's just going to keep looking. But see, I never get the flavor of it, because when Escanta the Sunken Ruin, when you find another search, you don't even take it.
It's the City of Gold. You've already found
I don't have any, there's no treasure in it.
Oh, Nexus of Fate is treasure.
So he makes mana here. Floats and activates Escanta. And this is 7. He floated 1. Actually, just making mana going to pass on the first Escanta activation. And cast Nexus of Fate.
And it looks like the thought here is he just wants to make sure that he has infinite mana to pay for a bunch of Lookouts, Dispersals, and Spell Pierces.
So with 1 extra turn in the bank, he now activates Escanta, finds another Nexus. Casts Chemister's Insight. Jumpstarts Chemister's Insight. All right, plenty of cards. We begin another turn. Let's refresh for Sam.
I really like Laurence's play this game. He's been very patient, and he's playing incredibly conservatively when he knows that as long as his spells just resolve, he has it locked up.
Yeah, I think he correctly read the reactions from Shiffman and You know, the reactions, for example, an end step, Nexus of Fate, tapping out, and Shiffman uses Negate as a counter spell. There's a read there. And because that, if you think about the counter spells they could play, Spell Pierce, Wizard's Retort, Lookout's Dispersal, Negate. Negate is the most valuable counter spell there, and so the read is your opponent doesn't have as much interaction left.
Exactly. Laurence spent all of his lands there and said, all right, fine, if you have a Spell Pierce, show me. And Shiffman could not show him.
Right, showing him a Negate tells him so much more.
Exactly.
And I like how he adapts his play then. So we see a Game 1 win here for Sam Laurence. Postboard things don't get a lot better. Shiffman can go for 3 more Negates.
I mean, gotta feel good about those.
Yeah.
Aether Gust is also pretty reasonable against the card Wilderness Reclamation, and it would not be surprising from Shiffman's side to expect Shifting Ceratops, for which Aether Gust is one of the only real ways that you can ever hope to answer that card.
Right. Right, the uncounterable protection from blue creature against your mono blue deck can pose a problem.
Right, and you may even see Shiffman bring in Charon's Magnifying Wand just to not get clowned by a 5-3 or 5-4.
Yeah, he does have one on his board.
Right, that's a lot of the reason the mono blue players have chosen to adopt a single copy of the card this weekend is exactly for the dinosaur.
Now looking at the sideboard from Laurence, he has those 2 Shifting Ceratops you mentioned, also some Negates and a 3 Veil of Summer of his own. It is against a blue deck.
Board in of Laurence's entire life, those Veil of Summers.
Shiffman on the play. Turn 1, Siren Storm Tamer. Turn 2, Curious Obsession, but no second land. Laurence off to the races here with a Growth Spiral.
Oh, there it is.
There we go. Shiffman finds the island, swings in for 2 more, draws a card, but just a stumble. He can keep going. Holds up 2.
And one of the things that the Siren Storm Tamer is secretly so good at is it enables both Lookout's Dispersal and Wizard's Retort because it is a pirate wizard.
4 mana from Sam. It's time. This is the mana for both Wilderness Reclamation and Shifting Ceratops. You see so much flash in Max's hand. A Merfolk Trickster, a Siren Storm, or a Spectral... The Pirate
Spectral
Flash! Pirate Flash!
Spectral Sailor.
Wizard's Retort counters Wilderness Reclamation. And now the Storm Tamer gets even more curious. Another aura on it. It draws 2 cards. Sam is to 13.
Curious little fella.
Another end-step play from Max. Despite missing that land drop, he's got the tempo strategy online.
Wouldn't you know it, an Ancestral Recall every turn just really helps you miss more. It makes up for it, you know?
It smooths out the draws.
So Shiffman's seen like 10 extra cards this game.
See, Sam has to spend 4 mana to draw the same number of cards. Max discarding now to hand size. Here's Growth Spiral from Laurence. It's really hard for a Simic deck to get out from under this.
Yeah, when your opponent missed a land drop on 2 but is now discarding islands to end step, you've got to know there's just so much gas in the tank.
Now, this is an interesting one. Blast Zone on 1 from Sam. Unless Shiffman has one of his one sideboard tails end, he doesn't have defense against Blast Zone. And he doesn't, so the Blast Zone cleans up the board. Laurence drops down to 7.
Luckily, there's this Merfolk Trickster on Shiffman's side, and it feels like the damage from those Curious Obsessions is already kind of done at this point. One of them drew 4, one of them drew 3.
Right, it's disappeared from the board here, but Sam is at 7. We'll keep updating on that. And search for Azcanta from Laurence. And a pass, 4 mana up. Attack, Laurence down to 4. Another land from Max. End step, Chemister's Insight. Max lets it happen. He has both Lookout's Dispersal and Negate in hand. So I guess if that's what his hand is, it's really just Shifting Ceratops he needs to dodge here. Or Veil of Summer, those sorts of effects.
Yeah, at this point, it's really hard to say how Laurence how he can get back in this game because it feels like Shiffman just has so much and even kind of has a clock going at this point. Even if it seems a little mopey, Laurence is at a fairly low life total at this point. He's going down to 1 on this attack.
And there we go. Yeah, he was at 4, the attack down to 1, so now even Siren Storm Tamer is lethal. It's a Chemister's Insight from Laurence, draws him 2, and untap. Can he find anything? Blast Zone into the graveyard, a transformation. He draws. If he has Root Snares, he can go for those. Even though they're a blue deck, I assume he still has some number of Root Snare in the deck.
Yeah, so the thing about Root Snare is this is one of the decks where the way that it has to win, the mono blue deck, is that it has to win via combat. So Root Snare does count as a time walk against mono blue aggro.
Test spell for Sam, it's Wilderness Reclamation. And Aether Gust from Shiffman.
And this is the spot where Shiffman doesn't have to save it for the Ceratops anymore because that Siren Storm Tamer is lethal.
Doesn't matter. So Aether Gust puts a green or red spell on top of its owner's, on top or bottom of its owner's library. Root Snare from Sam on Shiffman's upkeep. I believe Sam has a Veil of Summer here as well. Shiffman will negate. Veil of Summer, the back-breaking sideboard card. So Shiffman's played a blue spell, so Sam draws a card, and his spells are not counterable. So Root Snare resolves. Max cannot win this turn, and he just says go. Sam going to try that Wilderness Reclamation again. Now goes for Tamiyo. That will be Spell Pierced.
Ooh.
Max got to be happy to convert a Spell Pierce this late in the game.
Oh, yeah, and that's just kind of why Spell Pierce is so good against this deck. Simic Nexus is so mana hungry.
Yeah, you saw Max pause there because he knows Veil of Summer's in the deck. But we see Nexus of Fate from Sam. Does it work? Yes.
Is he going to come back at 1 life?
Now that floating mana is gone, I believe, from the Nexus, so he can't activate Azcanta. Yeah, there we go. Back. So it's a new turn. And it's starting to look like it, right? He resolved a Nexus with Azcanta Reclamation in play. Top 4 finds Tamiyo. That wasn't the best.
It's
Azcanta.
a reroll.
It's a reroll. No, but it wasn't a Root Snare and it wasn't a Nexus. So to really lock things up, he -3s the Tamiyo to make sure he gets that Root Snare back.
Right, he knows Shiffman didn't have the counterspell for it last turn, so unless he just ripped it off the top during his draw step, he's going to get to keep going.
Top 4. Sam has his choice between second Root Snare, Negate, and Nexus of Fate. He chooses Negate.
This is just to lock up this Root Snare and make sure that it goes off.
So he Root Snares in Shiffman's upkeep. That's going to work. Chemister's Insights on the end step. Back to Sam we go. Still at 1. Tamiyo pluses the name, likely Nexus of Fate. That's not going to hit. Sam may have done it here. It's looking good for him. Temple of Mystery puts another to the bottom. He's still looking for that Nexus. Top 4, and we see it. Nexus of Fate. We saw 2 of them, actually.
Ooh.
Opt for Laurence. Decides he wants it. It was another opt. Put it to the bottom, then decided he did have enough mana for that. Floats 4. That feels right here.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, you just don't have to play into Spell Pierce anymore. You know you're getting another turn's worth of mana. Just play it safe.
So, Nexus of Fate. This is the spell that has to resolve. Here's the negate from Shiffman. We know Sam has a negate back. He also has a Veil of Summer back.
Oh. Ironically, I think I would have liked seeing the negate back rather than the Veil of Summer here. It doesn't matter that much.
Top 4, Sam finds another Nexus, and I don't know how much more this Shiffman wants to put up with. So Sam takes his extra turn. He starts a new turn with Nexus already in his hand. And yeah, you see Shiffman says he knows this isn't going to stop anytime soon. Extends the hand, and it is Sam Laurence, your winner, 2 games to 0. He stays in the event, now improves to 10-3.